It was paused. It was,
Oh,
yeah,
Alex,
I paused it. I paused it because I knew we were going to be chatting. And then I'm ready to let people in if you're ready. And we'll give it like 2 minutes because it's just 7 o'clock now. It's just, yeah, people are coming on. Yeah, I see them.
You want to wait until 2 after?
No. We should let them in, but I'll let you know when to start, Nancy.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll just say welcome everybody as we're letting them in, and I'll let them know
Okay.
we're gonna start in
Thank you.
2 seconds.
All right. So I'm getting ready to let them all in.
Sounds good.
All right.
Smiles, everyone.
Here they come.
Yes, hope. I love it. Hope's on. Vanita's on. Good. Wonderful. All right.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Good
Hi.
afternoon.
Good evening. So we're going to give it just, about 2 minutes as people log in. We finally got it right, ladies. We finally got that login information and everything right. So we are expecting a nice crowd this evening. We had 51 people registered for this event. So let's just give time for people to just call in.
Okay.
Excuse me, dial in.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll get started momentarily. Hello, Queen. Hello, Malika. How are
Good
you?
evening, everybody.
Good.
We would love to see your lovely faces, ladies, but if you have to be off camera, it's okay.
Hi there, Karen. Thanks for coming. Oh, you're on mute, Karen. Karen, you're on mute. I think you're trying.
I'm sorry. Good evening, everyone. I'm at the track with the kids, so
Okay.
I can keep it on or.
It's up to you.
It's up to you, but just make sure you're mute. You could keep.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you
Okay,
for
thank you
coming.
so much.
Thank you for joining from the track. That's
Dedication.
Thank you for having me.
Total dedication.
dedication. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. That is fantastic. All right. Just give it another second. All right, there we go. Okay, it looks like it's slowed down a little bit. I think we should go ahead. I don't want to penalize anyone who's been on time. So Nancy, why don't you get started with your opening remarks? And I'm sure that there'll be folks who are joined. And by the time we get through that welcome and open room and my welcome, there'll be more people on.
Will do. So greetings and good evening. My name is Nancy Victor Green, and I am the president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Incorporated, Manhattan chapter. On behalf of our board of directors and members, I welcome you to our program this evening, Empower Her, What Black Solopreneurs Need to Know Now. The National Coalition of 100 Black Women is a 41-year-old national 501c3 nonprofit organization. Through advocacy and leadership development, we work as change agents to influence policy that promotes gender equity in health, education, public policy, and economic empowerment. We believe that through our efforts, we will fulfill our vision of seeing Black women and girls living in a world where socioeconomic inequity does not exist. I want to thank the New York Regional Chapter of the National Association of Health Services Executives, also known as NACI, and the New York Black Nurses Association for partnering with us for this important program. Founded in 1968, NACI has become a premier professional association for Black executives in the healthcare field. Its leadership and membership are administrators, practitioners, and educators working in a wide variety of healthcare organizations. NACI's purpose is to promote the advancement and development of these leaders and elevating the quality of healthcare services rendered to minority and underserved communities. The New York Black Nurses Association is dedicated to advancing the welfare of Black nurses, developing mutual strengths, and providing leadership in the development of more effective healthcare for the Black community. As you all know, we are facing uncertain economic times and must deal with the high cost of living and inflation and financial instability. And at a time we are navigating the shifting industries in banking, healthcare, and technology, which have led to job insecurity and career disruptions. This evening's webinar is your opportunity to learn to thrive as a solopreneur or aspiring entrepreneur. Our guest speaker will share her experience and entrepreneurial journey, tackling business planning, knowing when to pivot, resilience and stress management, and cultivating a supportive business family. Before we get started, just a housekeeping item. All lines are muted for the duration of the program. To ask a question, please use the chat box at the bottom of your screen. Now, it is my pleasure to welcome and introduce our first VP of Programs, Janera Gaston, who will introduce our speakers for our discussion. I'm sorry, our speaker. We only have one speaker this evening for our discussion this evening. And thank you for joining us. Janera.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I echo Nancy's excitement and enthusiasm for this evening's presentation. So today we have the pleasure of having Leslie Alex, an accomplished solopreneur with a remarkable entrepreneurial journey. I've known Leslie for more years than I care to admit. and as we were, talking before this started, I realized that I think she's probably been at most of the very important events in my life. So it's so incredible to be able to have her on this evening and share her journey. But Leslie's expertise spans over 16 years in sales and business ownership, coupled with a diverse 30+ year career in the healthcare industry. So it's only apropos that we have our partners, Nasi and Black Nurses, on with us tonight. She is the proud owner of the Tea Experience, a thriving full service and mobile tea party catering business with an impressive online presence, retailing over 35 organic and fair trade loose leaf teas, accessories, and tea-themed gifts. The Tea Experience also offers a popular Tea of the Month subscription known as Simplicity. So cute. Oh, Leslie, you're just so creative. But I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Her entrepreneurial spirit really led to her previous success as owner of Lola's Tea House. It was a beloved afternoon tea venue in Pelham, New York. You may know her if you're familiar with Lola's Tea. Yeah, it's Leslie. She had that tea house for 6 years. She is a recent grad of the esteemed Goldman Sachs 1 Million Black Women, Blacks in Business program the 2023 class, spring 2023 class. And she continues to elevate the Tea Experience and actively contributes to various influential organizations such as the Tea Association of the USA, multiple chambers of commerce, the Business Council of Westchester, and Buy from a Black Woman organization. So thank you all of us for joining for what is sure to be definitely an inspiring and I think fun evening of conversation with Leslie. I encourage you all to ask questions. If you hear something that inspires you, or you hear something and you're just like, yeah, that resonates with me, hey, throw up a hand, throw up a clap sign, throw something in the chat. We definitely want to support and inspire Leslie as much as she's supporting and inspiring us tonight. So without further ado, Leslie, I know you have a presentation for us. Can you share your screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
There you go. Got it.
Pretty. Okay. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that introduction. That's very complimentary. I was kind of wondering who you were talking about with all that. I'm like, wow, this person, is that me? Like, really?
Absolutely, 1000%.
Unbelievable. But thank you so much for the 100 Black Women's chapter, Manhattan chapter, for inviting me on this really interesting event. And you folks are the first folks, I've had a few now after you, to approach me to ask me about my experiences with the Goldman Sachs program. So you guys are getting it firsthand, first time. And so feel free to ask me any questions. I'm fully transparent. I'll tell you the good, bad, and the ugly about it, but mostly the good. Tell you a little bit about myself and my journey, as Janera had mentioned. And so I can move this little thing out of the way. Here we go. So a little bit about me. As Janera had mentioned, I was the proud owner of a brick and mortar space called Lola's Tea House. I actually owned that space from 2007 until about 2013, and then converted it into what we now call the Tea Experience. I got into the tea industry in a very personal way. My father, I always tell everyone that tea is part of my ancestral story. My father was raised, he's a Crucian. He was originally, he wasn't born in St. Croix. My grandfather was born in St. Croix, and then the folks, Ellis Island over to the New York area, but my father was born here. But my grandfather was pretty steadfast in keeping and retaining some of the tenets that we had grew up with in St. Croix. Back when my grandfather was a child in St. Croix, it was ruled by England. And so there were a number of British English type tenets that my grandfather incorporated into raising his children. And so when my dad became older, he continued to drink tea. So he was the tea drinker of our family. My mom is from Virginia. She's a Southern Belle. So we had sweet tea as well in the summertime with mom, but tea every day, 3 times a day with dad. No meal is complete without a cup of tea, Leslie, was all I was told. And so with that, my great-grandfather rather, who came over, his first job was working at, and I have to find out if it's still around, the Haviland China Company, where grandfather was the first African-American man, great-grandfather was the first African-American man to work in the China manufacturing company in that business. And so growing up in my home, we always had odds and ends, teacups and saucers, never knew where they came from, they were just always there. But these were the cups and saucers that my father would use for his tea every day. It wasn't until my father was diagnosed with terminal colon cancer. I had about a year's window time to spend with him and talk with him, and he would kind of review his life and talk about, his trips and vacations and time in St. Croix. And, he'd always have that cup of tea at the bedside or wherever we were. We had to make sure we had tea for him. And so in one of the conversations that I had with him at the time, I was working in healthcare. I was actually specifically working in managed care at the time, and back in 2006, when he was diagnosed. And I was working in a job that I was pretty conflicted about. I was in a role that I enjoyed the job, the position itself, but I really was not a big advocate of the organization at large. To be honest, I really hated the job because of the organization and how it was run and everything, but it was the most money I had ever made in my career. And so I was conflicted every 2 weeks when that check was deposited into my bank account as to whether or not I was going to stay and just deal with it and bite the bullet and get that paycheck and get it deposited in, or was I going to do something else? And so there was just one day where I had had enough, and I had gone home to my parents to visit my dad and started complaining about how I hated this job. It's the worst job in the world. I don't like the people. I don't like this. I don't like that. And he just looked at me and he was just like, so quit. And I'm like, Dad, I've got mortgage, car note, life. I can't quit this job. It's the most money I've ever made in my life. What do you, I can't, da, da, da. And, him being in his current, in that situation, he's like, Leslie, life is too short. You got to be happy. You spend more time at work than you do with the family sometimes. And so, you've got to be in a job or in a career that you enjoy. And so he looked at me and he just said, so what is it that you would like to do that would make you happy, but you just happen to be getting a paycheck for? And I was really challenged by it. I couldn't come up with an answer. And at that moment, he took his cup of tea, took a sip, put the cup down, and then just like sat there and looked at me, waiting for me to answer his question. And I'm staring and I'm like, God, I don't know what am I gonna, what kind of answers? I'm like, Dad, I need a little bit more time to kind of think that through and let me figure it out. And, it just hit me at that moment. I just said, you make me happy. And when I said that, all the, this whole tea thing kind of flooded in for me. And I'm like, Dad, how would you feel if I did something in honor of you and the family and tea, because of great grandfather and you, and, and he was so enjoyed it. I was like, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And then I, went home trying to figure out what that was, because I couldn't figure out like, okay, how, now that I've committed myself to this, how am I going to come through for him? And so, life being serendipitous, I would like to say I don't believe in chances or coincidences. I believe in faith. I was faith driven. And so throughout that next few months, things just kind of presented themselves to me about opening a business. And so I would go shopping and, in Pelham, I go to the post office, I go to the drugstore there, and there was a vacant, for rent sign in a vacant space. And I just kind of stood there and looked at it, and I took the number down and I was like, should I call? Like, is this where I should be? And I called the number. While I was standing there, the person answered the phone and they said, well, my handyman is 2 doors down, because this particular landlord owned a strip of the stores. Why don't you wait there and I'll have him come down and open up the space for you? And so from that point on, I was like, okay, and talked to him. He seemed to be very nice and very welcoming. The guy came and let me see the space. So I'm like, okay, now what do I do? He's like, well, you need a lawyer, you need an architect, you need this, you need that. But first you need to go down to the town and get your paperwork put in for renting and renovating the space. I go down to the Pelham City Hall, whatever their little town thing is called. And I'm standing in line waiting for the paperwork. There was a man behind me and he's like, where's your paperwork? And I'm like, I'm here to figure out what that paperwork is. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I'm thinking about, and there's a space and da, 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 da. And he was like, okay, you need this, you need that, go get this form, get that form over there at that desk and, fill it all out. And he's like, you need a lawyer, you need an architect, you need a contractor. I'm like, yes, I need all that. And he's like, well, I'm an architect. I can help you. I happen to live in town. I'm an architect. I actually have been coming to submit floor plans for something else. Here's my card. And so things like that just kept happening. And so I kept saying, well, Lord, if this is your way, if this is, stop me, if this is not where I'm supposed to be, if, change my path, if I'm going down, because I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a registered nurse with a managed care background. So I'm, embarking on something that I have absolutely nothing about. And so things like that just continue to happen. And so I said, well, okay, I'll just keep going. I'll keep going. Luckily, not luckily, the interior designer, it was someone that I went to church with. She was like, oh, I'll help you, design and blah, 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 and project manage the construction. The fire department in Pelham was 3 blocks away from the store. They came to do an initial inspection on the wiring. And they were like, well, you need a contractor, like you need some things done. And I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, well, 2 of the firefighters here in Pelham are contractors as well. So let me call them. And, so things just, I say that all to say that things just kind of, the path was written, I guess. It was just my way of knowing that this was what I was supposed to do. And so PS, Lola's Tea House opened up in 2007. Daddy passed away in June of 2006, but he knew that I was there. I was showing him pictures. He knew that it was going to be open. His name was Lester. So Lester's Tea House didn't quite have the ring. My mom's name is Lola. She was still alive and sassy and fresh and inappropriate and unfiltered. She was in her 80s at the time. And so I thought, let me name the place after her. But the interior of the space is going to be all about Dad. And so I had pictures of Dad. I had all of great-grandfather's teacups and saucers on shelves for display, and anything that we could do, we did in honor of my father. And so that's how I kind of got into the entrepreneurial industry, was really through a familial desire to pay homage to my dad. And so fast forward, we are now in the tea experience. We've changed the business model from a brick and mortar space to a mobile tea party catering business, where I come to you with wait staff and plates, cups, forks, knives, and 3-tier trays. I even come with the food and the scones and the finger sandwiches and the pedophores and the yada yadas. And I help you host birthday parties, bridal showers, baby showers, book clubs. I've done some fundraisers for some of the sororities. I'm trying to find and get my way into the men, because I know the men and the fraternities have book clubs themselves. I actually did one mini book club here in a local Westchester group of men who, I think their book club was called Books and Bourbon or something like that. And so I did a simplicity box for them as well. And so I am trying to get into, more and more of the larger organizations to let them know that I'm around. And if they ever in need of someone to help them with some sort of tea party or team themed event, that I am available. So what happened recently, and I'll get into the whole COVID pivot in a couple of more slides, but in addition to me hosting tea parties, I've now have a service line or a product line, 2 different product lines, one about virtual or in real life tea tastings, where we have been pretty successful with hosting tea 101 educational sessions, tea tastings where we pair tea and cheese, tea and chocolate, or more recently, tea and flavored honeys, tastings and pairings. We can do them virtually as well as in real life if need be. But the tea 101 sessions seem to be pretty important and valuable and popular. People seem to kind of like the tea 101, just to kind of, it's like the basics, kind of get everybody on the same page about tea and where it comes from and the origins of it and different countries and, all that kind of stuff that people would enjoy learning about. And so we do tea tastings as well as online. I have a website that sells loose leaf tea, and that's why I failed to mention I'm team loose leaf tea. I'm not really a tea bag person. We can have that conversation if need be. Somebody asked me later on if you're interested in as to why I'm not a tea bag person, particularly a supermarket or storefront tea bag person. I'll, if we have time, I'll get into that. But I am 100% loose leaf tea. It's organic, it's fair trade. As Janera mentioned, I have over 35 or 40 somewhere, I have lost count, of different types and flavors of loose leaf teas as well. That's for sale on the website, and all the accessories that come along with making a good cup of tea. Another product line that I got into, and this is again, and I'll tell you about this in COVID, is the gift boxes. I now have a subscription gift box program called Simplicity, where we, depending on your need and desire, it could be a one-time gift, a hostess gift, a birthday gift, a one-time gift, or a monthly subscription, 3 months, 6 months, 12-month subscriptions, where every month you'll get a box from me with a different tea, a different theme, a little card in there about the tea, how to brew it. You'll get some snacks, and then, cute little desserts or something unique about that particular tea will be in your box. And so here in this picture is the holiday gift box that we offered last year, which was a huge seller. I couldn't keep up. I actually had to ask friends to come over and help assemble them because the orders were kind of coming fast and furious. But so we do have simplicity boxes as well for sale on the website. Okay, so with that being said, I am a member of an organization called Buy from a Black Woman. It is a Atlanta, Georgia-based organization, but it is a nonprofit 501c3 that is full on 100% an advocate of Black women's small businesses of all different types. They have an accelerator program, they have educational sessions, they have a directory, an online directory for all of us who sign up and want to be a part of the directory across the country. They also offer, right now, the Inspire Tour is about to happen, where the founder of the organization travels to major cities. I think she's up about 5 or 6 major cities, where she highlights and talks about and offers opportunity for Black women business owners in that particular city. They also offer during the holidays, she's partnered with H&M, the store H&M, where we now have a floor in, well, at least last year here in New York, I was selected to be one of the small business owners for the H&M in Times Square, where we had a floor in Times Square. That H&M store is pretty huge. I think it's like 4 or 5 floors, and they gave us a floor just for 6 or 8 small Black business owners to discuss our wares, to offer our services, to offer our products for sale there for all of the H&M customers. And it was a great experience to be there and partner with a large corporation like H&M. And so I say that all to say that through the Buy from the Black Woman business organization is how I found out about the Goldman Sachs Blacks in Business program. We had a session where on Zoom, where the founder of Buy from a Black Woman invited one of the representatives from the Goldman Sachs program to one of our meetings, and they told us all about the program, what it entails, what it was about, what the goal was, and if any of us wanted to apply, here's the link to apply. And so Leslie applied, not thinking that she would actually get in because it's Goldman Sachs, and I'm just a little T person, but I went ahead and I applied, and I was called for an interview. And all that took about a year. So I got in and was accepted into the spring of 2023 cohort. And all the interviewing and application was a year ago. So in 2021, when all the interviews and the application and all this stuff happened, and then I kind of forgot about it, honestly. And then I think maybe early in 2023 is when I got the phone call and the letter saying that I was accepted and I was part of cohort 3, which meant that I was going to be a part of the 10-week program that started in May of this year. No, I graduated in May, started in March of this year, and we all went through the program. Apparently there were 2,000 applicants, and they selected 150 of us to be in cohort 3. Cohort 4, the next group, is about to start, I believe, in September. But I believe that the application process for the September cohort is now closed. But this program is probably going to be around for a fairly long time, because the goal is to get 1 million Black women-owned businesses through this program. So, and this is only cohort 3. So 153, 400, there's about 500 of us so far altogether that have actually been through the program at this point. So they got a little bit of ways to go to get to 1 million. So this program is definitely going to be around and for a long time. And it seems to be totally supported and advocated by Goldman Sachs. They literally threw money a significant amount of money and resources into this program to be sure that we are all successful. And so through the program, there were 6 program modules that focused on very specific topics. And there you see them: customer profiling, marketing, scaling, finance, and raising capital. The goal of this program is to get all of us who are solopreneurs to stop working in our business, in our business, and more so working at or with our business. And so the whole goal is to change us from being doers, we're the bookkeepers, we're the packers, we're the mailer, we're the customer service people, we're the solopreneur doing everything. We cannot grow as a solo small business doing all that. And the goal is to of this program was to change our mindset, give us resources, give us education and training on how to grow, to scale, with the goal of at some point in the life of your business to sell it, to have it acquired. So that's the ultimate goal of the program. But during this program, it's really about mindset changing. You're now CEO, you're no longer the proprietor or even like the owner, or, they want us to have that CEO mentality and thinking about our business. So it was a total shift of thinking for all of us. And a lot of us, honestly struggled with that. And we've struggled through some of these modules as well. But luckily we have smaller groups called growth groups. There was like 10 or 12 of us in each growth group. And we also had business advisors, we had mentors, and then we also had Goldman Sachs advisors, like senior C-suite advisors as well. At the end of the 10 weeks at graduation, there was a pitch contest where someone won $5,000. And then we had to ultimately submit, at the end of like every master's or PhD program, you got to submit a thesis. We had to submit what they were calling an action plan, but it was more than just a business plan. It was really the whole notion about 3-year projections in finances, where you're going to be, where you are now, what resources. We also had to commit to 3 goals that we needed to accomplish by the end of this year that had to be put in the action plan. And we all had to take turns in our growth groups talking about our action plans. So it was very demanding of your time. It wasn't competitive, but it was very supportive, actually. It was not competitive at all. It was just very demanding, very rigorous, lots of information thrown at you within a week's time, Zoom meetings 2-3 times a week, advisor meetings. You had to be full on committed. The minute you cracked or you thought you were about to give up, they either said, well, maybe this is not for you. Maybe you should consider going into the next cohort if this is not for you, or this is just not for you, you're just not ready. But luckily for my cohort, there was 150 of us that started and 148 of us actually made it through. So it was a very, very, very supportive, very rigorous, very tough, made you think, made you learn things that you just never thought of or, thought to do, because you're so entrenched in your solo day-to-day operationpreneur work that you don't think about the bigger, the ability to scale with the ultimate, to grow with the ultimate goal to scale. And so with that, the action plan actually had, goal setting and branding, and, all they kept saying is to be laser focused on working on your business and not in your business. And so that was kind of the mantra of the 10 weeks. And again, with the ultimate goal to sell or to be acquired or merge at a higher level with venture capital money, like, that level of business acumen. During the program, with the modules, they would always talk to us about the barriers and obstacles, particularly for Black solopreneurs and for Black women solopreneurs particularly. They actually called us the new majority because based on research and information that they were able to gather through Goldman Sachs analytics, is that the Black woman, the Black small business owner, is the number one in rising in the number of businesses, opening businesses across the country. And so, and we have different various great attributes. We will be stewards of the money. We, are laser focused. We may have family responsibilities, but we're still able to multitask and manage. We need a little help in our finances and accounting and that kind of, from a business perspective. But for the most part, Black small business, women small business owners are really kind of the focus of the industries these days. And so there's a lot of money, there's a lot of grants, there's a lot of resources now being laser focused on Black small business owners. And so during all that, they would show us every couple of meetings and modules, just a little statistic. And that's what I had listed there below about the common obstacles and barriers. And then we'd have discussions about how we in that cohort are going to overcome a lot of those obstacles and how Goldman Sachs program is going to help us overcome those particular obstacles. And so again, I just say that this organization, this program was just really, really life-changing and business-changing for me. There was a lot of talk, obviously, about COVID and how that impacted a lot of our businesses and what did we do, and the cliche term of pivot, and what did you do to pivot, and how you did that in the midst of, because it was, I think it was about module about resiliency and perseverance and mindset. And so COVID actually came up. And a big debate and discussion is the term pivot cliche. Is it real? And, how has anybody actually dealt with that? And I actually volunteered my little 2 cents worth and shared with them about how my business literally shut down on March, I can't remember the date. I want to say March like 20th or 21st, when Governor Cuomo shut us down and put us all on pause and sent us home and quarantined everybody. My business literally at that point came to a screeching halt. No more tea parties, no more tea events, no more, like, everything. I literally went from overnight to a $0 generating state, zero. And so I sat here and tried to figure out, what am I gonna do? And I had a few staff, but they were, they weren't full-time employed staff, but they were, my on-call wait staff. What am I going to do with them? How do I continue to kind of be their part-time employer? And, what's going to happen with this tea business, with this pandemic? And so, again, I don't believe in serendipity. Customers will call or email me and say, one of my family members, or I'm down with COVID, Leslie, can you send them some tea? And then, of course, yeah, I can send them some tea. I'll email you their address. And by any chance, do you have anything to go in the box? Do you have some cough drops? Do you have some honey? They're having a fever. Can you put some Tylenol and a get well card in the box for me? Of course, a business owner, I'm going to say, yeah, sure, I can do that. And so my Simplicity Box product line was born in the midst of COVID from customers calling or emailing or texting me and asking me, can you send them ginger tea? Can you send some dehydrated lemons and this, that, and the other? And of course, business owner, you're going to say yes, and then you figure it out later. And so the Simplicity Box was born out of COVID by me listening to customers and, whatever they asked me for, to see if I could realistically honor their requests. And so Simplicity Boxes were born. They became extremely popular, word of mouth. And then we started posting about them on social media and on the website, and people caught on to, it was kind of like a get well soon box, a COVID box kind of theme, but I thought about, like, at that time, everything was a box and everything was being delivered, because of COVID. And so why not have, a presence in that market, and offer people box of the month. And then I looked at the calendar. There's usually something to celebrate every month. I could probably figure out, or a company have a company with a particular holiday or an event. It's National Donut Day, it's National, whatever day, iced tea day and hot tea day. And, so there was always themes: Mother's Day, holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, hostess, now we're into the summer months, hostess boxes for barbecues. And, all these ideas started coming through because of the box that we created during COVID. And so also with that, you hear and see on the news about people who are, stressed out and anxious over being quarantined, and how do you kind of get through some of that. So I was like, well, how about a wellness box? A wellness box with some calming tea, and what else would be helpful to someone who's kind of feeling anxious. And so we came up with wellness boxes and managing stress and spa boxes, and like all these different theme type boxes came just kind of as ideas, and have sold and produced a lot of new customers for me, through the initial COVID Get Well box. But one of the other modules that we had talked about in the Blacks in Business program was about managing stress for us, resiliency, and how you manage your time as a solopreneur. And so, all that managing stress and maintaining resiliency and time management came from, again, the mindset of getting us out of working in our business instead of on our business. And a lot of the stress that we all seem to have had was because we were all doing everything ourselves for the business. And so one of the modules about time management and organization came that just kind of, like, I don't know, it's more than a light bulb. It was like an explosion in my head, where I was just like, I don't have to do all this. And why am I doing all this? And it's time for me to start delegating. It's time for me to start hiring. It's time for me to start not doing the things that I've been doing and let the professionals do it. So during this program, the very first person that I hired was a bookkeeper, because I was doing my own QuickBooks myself. And it was something that I hated doing anyway. And so why not? Of course, there was someone in the program who was an accountant and a bookkeeper and had her business. And so a lot of us started engaging her as our bookkeeper, for bookkeeping services. What a relief, what a pressure taken out. Like, that stress level for me dropped by 50% at that point. And then I thought, okay, well, let's take another step. Let's, start, thinking about what can I automate, and how can I pull all this stuff together? Because I had everything on spreadsheets on my little laptop. How am I going to kind of automate and get things a little more simplified and make things more available to other people other than myself? And so I hired a virtual assistant. And I also, they had given us a recommendation about certain project management software, where all my projects, all my tea parties, all my simplicity boxes and themes are now scheduled and projected in this project management software that my virtual assistant manages for me. And so it's just things that they sound pretty obvious, but I guess when you're well, at least for me, I was so entrenched in the day-to-day, these things I never thought to hire someone to be a bookkeeper for me. Like, I just never, I have a tax accountant, but I just never thought, I see him once a year, but why not have a bookkeeper who's, one of these QuickBook experts or whatever, that she has the credentials. So, I've automated, with my virtual assistant, I've automated with project management software, and I have hired a bookkeeper. And so my life as founder and CEO of the Tea Experience, has been so positively impacted by this program. There's my graduating class. There's 148 of us. If you can see me, I'm down here in the green dress on the floor because they put all the little people up front. But that's me there. We all were asked to kind of wear, this was kind of our color scheme, greens, blues, pinks. They actually even gave us a scarf that had those colors in it, and they wanted us all to wear the scarves. And, so you'll see some people, I don't know if you can see well, but there were some ladies wearing the scarves, some wore them as headbands. I don't know where mine is. I think it's around my neck. And so that was our graduating class. During that graduation, family and friends were invited. C-suite Goldman Sachs folks showed up. I mean, even the inveritable Mr. Solomon was there. They sat us at different tables during lunch with all of the C-suite Goldman Sachs folks. And I sat at the table with the senior vice president and partner of mergers and acquisitions at Goldman Sachs. Very, very, very nice man. But just really, really gave us access to folks that you would never have the opportunity to be in the room with. And so it was a very, very, very memorable event that day and a memorable program. During that lunch with the senior C-suite folks and the partners, they all were asked to stand up and give us all some advice and give us some tips. And so luckily for me, I took my phone out and started typing, like every time one of the C-suite folks would stand up and give us, I wrote it down. And so this list of what you see about advice when considering entrepreneurship as a career path were all born out of that luncheon that we had with C-suite Goldman Sachs folks. And so I share them with you because they are tried and true. They are what I'm living by now because of this program. And I think that they are worth sharing for anybody who is looking to become an entrepreneur, or either as a startup have entered into the entrepreneur world and is in their infancy stages, or even if you're an advanced business, in growth mode like the 150 of us are. But here is this list straight out of the mouths of C-suite Goldman Sachs folks that I just wanted to share with everybody. So I'd be more than happy to screenshot. If you haven't already screenshotted, I can share this. I think Janera, you have a list, have my slide deck.
I do.
Feel free to share this list of advice and tips from them. But I look at this, I have this printed up in my office, this very slide, and I kind of look at it every couple of days when I get a little crazy, when I get beside myself, I kind of take a look at it and like, all right, Liz, I gotta get myself together. I gotta get out of being in my business because it's really hard, even though I have a virtual assistant and a bookkeeper, I'm like, what are y'all doing? And what's going on with the project manager? And so I have to learn how to be a CEO. And these tips and advice that they had given us helps me a great deal. And I hope that it helps you. Yes, ma'am.
Leslie. Yeah. I love the tips. And I just want to say, I wanted to try to get to some questions.
Okay.
Really quickly. So I don't know if we can speed through this. Sorry.
Yep. Nope. I had one more slide. I mean, I think I was just going to, I think the question that you had asked me to answer was what's next for me and the Tea Experience. Yes. And so last slide just says, I'm continuing to try and break the habit. I'm trying to continue to work on my business and not in it. I'm going to enter one of the goals, Goldman Sachs goals that I had was to enter the corporate gifting business, larger scale, for holidays or administrative day or a gift box for, those types of small to mid-sized businesses that are looking to give gifts to their employees or their staff. And then with the ultimate goal, my 5-year goal is to open up a commercial kitchen in Southern Westchester for other makers, bakers, collectors, startup people who, don't have the money or time to really open up a storefront.
I will have 2 boys who will be available to wash dishes for you. in your business when you get it started. So don't worry.
Perfect. Perfect.
I have two boys who can lift some stuff. I don't know if we have, it looks like, oh my gosh, it looks like there are quite a few questions here. I have Printable Tees asking, are you NMSDC or WBENC certified?
I am MWBE certified for New York City. I am waiting to get my approval for New York State. And I am actually, that was my second goal for my Goldman Sachs action plan, is to secure one contract by the end of the year with one of the New York City agencies, whether it's gift boxes, whether it's let me do a tea one-on-one for your employees. You know, so that's, I'm MWBE certified, to answer the question, city certified.
Fantastic. Was it your goal initially to scale up to sell?
No, not at all.
That was
Not
not
at
even,
all.
not-
Wasn't even on my radar at all. But now in going through this program, we actually have, I don't know if you ladies have heard of, we had 2 other successful businesses that have gotten to that level, that went through the program and came back as speakers. One is called Mael. She does hair care products. You've probably seen them in the CV.
Oh, yes.
Mael.
Yes.
She went through this program and came back and talked about how she started. She's now, I think, bought or merged with L'Oreal or one of the bigger Revlon. Like, she's got to that point of growing to scale and sold, or she merged. And then the other business that came, I don't know if you know of Honey Pot.
Yes.
She
right,
does
yes.
organic,
Yep,
feminine products.
Yep.
He came back and spoke to us as one of the guest speakers, and we used them as case studies as growing to scale to sell and you know, for merger or acquisition. So it's on my mind now. Never thought about it, but you know, it's definitely a thought.
Fantastic. Wow. Where do you get the teas? Do you go to other countries or places seeking teas?
I have relationship and contracts with 4 wholesalers, 2 in this area, 1 in Canada, and they blend the teas for me. They, you know, I buy them in bulk, wholesale, and then have it shipped here to me, to the office, and then we spend our time divvying it up, repackaging it, and you know, so it's mostly wholesalers. I'm not that talented, nor do I have that storage space to be able to do all that. So, you know, I subcontract it out with wholesalers. And the teas come from India, Sri Lanka, Japan, China, and Africa mostly.
Very nice. Are there other questions, folks? I see, I don't know if there were, these are the ones that were in the chat. I can't see if anyone else has questions. Maybe we can, if Leslie, if you want to pull down your presentation so we can get back to our.
Okay.
Great. This was amazing presentation. Does anybody else, any other hands that want to go up? Anybody else have a question for Leslie?
Janera, I saw one, someone was asking before if she's going to be vending at the biannual convention.
Okay.
At the what?
Biennial. I think I might have seen that. I'm sorry if I missed that. I missed asking that. So are we talking about for the person who asked the NCBW biennial?
Yes.
I didn't know.
I
that was an option.
I had communicated with her in the chat. I will reach out to National. They usually do have a process in terms of you becoming a vendor. And I will share that with that person and with you, Leslie. I don't know if the deadline is too late, but we will try, right?
It's in Philly this year, so that would be.
And it's
great.
in Philadelphia, nice and close.
I love Philadelphia. I actually went down there recently to the Jill Scott concert and stayed at Aquaba Inn, the bed and breakfast.
Yes, that's right.
Oh my gosh, I love Philadelphia. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Will do. Okay, how about Cicely? Do you want to unmute yourself and?
Good afternoon, Leslie. Thanks for a very interesting and motivating presentation. My question is, I'm sorry, my camera is not working. My question is, if someone is interested in participating in the Golden Sachs program, how do they apply?
There is a website. Janera, I can share it with you once I find it, but there is a website, a full on, I mean, you can actually Google it. Goldman Sachs Blacks in Business. Goldman Sachs also has another program called 10,000 Businesses. Those are for the big guys, the folks that have revenue generating, I think, of $1 million or 500,000 or more. But we have a Blacks in Business 1 Million Black Women website that the application is there. It explains the program, the commitment, the requirements. There's revenue requirements. There's, what type of business you have to be, registered in your particular state type stuff that you have to go through. And then there's an interview. But there's a website. Just Google, and I can share it with Janera when I find it. But there, if you Google Blacks in Business, Goldman Sachs, it pops up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Cicely.
Thank you.
Dr. Lundy?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, do they give you some advice as to after you've sold your business or merged with someone else, do they encourage you about what's your next venture? What else are you going to do?
Yeah, then they force you into the 10,000 business. Not force you, but they highly encourage you get into the next level 10,000 Black businesses program. One of the facilitators, she has a business called 1863. She's a venture capitalist, and she actually was part of the finance of the Obama administration. And so she is all about advocating about mergers and acquisitions. And like when you get to that point, basically, she was saying when we all get to that point, to come see her, because she's gonna help facilitate us getting to that next level. But yeah, they encourage us, once you've kind of gotten to that point of scale and you're ready to like get to that next level, they encourage you to get into the 10,000 Black business program.
Thank you. That was really a great story.
Thank
You're
you.
right on the right track. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Wow. 2 more questions. How do you go about establishing a nonprofit entrepreneurship? I think that was from Karen.
Good question. I'm for profit, so but they did have, there were a number of nonprofits that were in my cohort, and they had kind of like their own little subgroup of people. But first things first, you got to file your 501c3. I mean, I'm sure this organization can help you, at least with that startup part, depending on what city or state you're in. But and then they did have some, like they had some special little, which I wasn't a part of, but they did have some special like subgroups of the nonprofits. They all got together with a business advisor, because their mission and goal is different than the rest of ours, and so they had their little subgroup there.
Thank you. Actually, I am actually in Queens, New York State, Albans area, and my dad passed away 20 years ago, but I recently lost my mom in December. So God has put it on my heart to try to do something to establish a legacy in honor of them, and they were very good at giving back to the community. So I just want to continue that legacy.
I say do it. I say do it. And there's a number of organizations. I mean, I know LaGuardia Community College has like an accelerator startup business type education and training program. Back when in 2006, I had gone through here in Westchester County a program called WEDC, Women's Entrepreneurial Development Center. And then there's Buy From a Black Woman, who has accelerator type startup educational for businesses. There's a lot of resources out there. You just kind of have to plug in. But I say
thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm scared, but you got
to put that scare away. Leap of faith. Go do it.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Anybody else? Come on, ask. I'm very transparent. I don't know it, I'll make it up, but ask.
Hi. Oh, go
Hi.
ahead. My question was about the entrepreneur, intrapreneur, solopreneur. There's a lot of differences or variations of sort. Is there a big difference? And was that discussed in the program? And is there much more of a, I guess, benefit or toll maybe on you if you go one route versus another route? Or is solopreneur more entrepreneur, not entrepreneur? That's the
Interchangeable. They're all interchangeable terms. Some people like to identify themselves as solopreneurs. I'm the only person, you know, I'm a sole proprietor, you know, because I'm an LLC, but you know, when we actually started the program, we had to stand up and introduce ourselves, and everybody was very proud to stand up and say, my name is so-and-so and my business XYZ LLC. Like everybody, you know, I'm a sole proprietor. Like people are proud of whatever their business tax status is, and identify, but in the grand scheme of things, on level playing field, it's all the same. If you're left-handed, it's entrepreneurship. If you're right-handed, it's solopreneur. Like it doesn't matter. You know, just make the money and make the profits. Generate some revenue. Doesn't matter.
thank you.
Mhm.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you found that most of the entrepreneurs that or solopreneurs that you encountered, they were selling goods like in the hospitality field and, you know, retail field? Because in healthcare, there is a pivot. Folks get ready to retire and they're like, what do I do next?
Mhm.
And if you've always been in healthcare administration like me, it's like, what can I sell? What can I do?
Mhm.
So what exactly were some of the stories you've encountered in terms of like overall what they sell?
A lot of those folks were consulting. They did a lot of consulting. You know, they started their own consulting firms, or they went into the government contracting business and became, you know, again, consultants of some sort, advisors, if you will, project managers of certain agencies' programs.
That's excellent.
Here in New York City, there's, you know, an inordinate number of New York City agencies, from Department of Education to Child Protective Services and they all are looking for people with tenure and experience to consult.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, it looks like we're at our time. I would like to ask New York Black Nurses and Nasi just to give us a few closing remarks, and then we'll wrap it up with President Green. Marcia?
Thank you so much. As another nurse, wondering about where people go with this. I'm glad that question was asked, Ms. Fergus. And indeed, it's a place for people to progress. We are extremely happy to be a part of this program, and we thank you for inviting us to partner with you. And certainly, we're definitely going to share your information in whatever way we can. And thank you so much. It's just one question that I do have. What about, you know, people have a role, they build a business. It's now their son or daughter. And what about that emptiness feeling, or that sense of, oh my, I've lost touch with my business? Have any people dealt with that in the program?
Not yet. I think I was probably the oldest person. No, there was someone who was a little bit older than I was. I'm in my 60s. And so this person was a little bit older. I want to say 66, 60, a little under 70. And what she did, speaking of nonprofits, was she developed a nonprofit organization for the kids in the community. I think it was some sort of like how do I say, a talent, performance, dance, artists, musicians. She developed a nonprofit organization for the kids in her community because I think she was a retired educator. I think she was a music teacher or something. Like there was some tie between music and her community. And so she was in the Goldman Sachs program trying to develop her nonprofit organization to build this community organization for artists, children in her community for arts. So yeah, there's always, you just let it be driven by your passion, like whatever that is, that's where you'll make your money.
Thank you so much. We've been empowered. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
I'm our president, Dr. Teresa Lundy, who spoke before. She's the president of our chapter. Any of you nurses, we would love you to join with us too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Jay, we can't hear you. If you'd like to come off mute.
Oh, okay. Oh, we doing that. Okay. Thank you so much, Marcia. That was perfect. I'm gonna have to segue into that. Leslie, this was wonderful. I'm an HR manager of Department of Surgery at Columbia University. And one of the things we've noticed is that there is a huge population of young 30s and 40s coming up behind us, 50 somethings. Yes, I'm 52. So for a lot of the folks that are pivoting, we're trying to find opportunities to get into another line of passion that you're referring to. So thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for having us. I love partnering with 100 Black Women. I was a member. I'm gonna have to come back. So yeah, Nancy, I'm coming back. So thank you. Thank you so much for having us. I am the chapter president. We have quite a few events coming up. Tomorrow we have the Men of Distinction. We have, we're going to be doing a collaboration with HLNY, Better Together this summer. We also are going to collaborate with the fraternity Omega Psi Phi for the backpack community service. And then of course we have our amazing fundraising event in September, the annual scholarship gala. So we will be sharing those things with 100 Black Women to share with your members if they would like to attend. And so thank you so much for having us. That's all I got.
Nancy, you want to close us out?
Yes, I'm going to close this out. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for our partnering organizations. And that was a phenomenal presentation. So it's wonderful to hear that you're willing to share that with people. And I look forward to doing a part 2 of this with maybe more than one, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. So thank you so much, everyone. And look forward to getting communications from us over the summer and look forward to seeing you at our next program.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Feel free to reach out to me at any time if you have any other questions.
Thank you, Leslie.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.